You are constantly asking me, how do I keep my stitches so perfect on top of the other? Or why is my amigurumi head so weird? Or my amigurumi is ugly, how can I make it better? Well, I put a lot of thought into it, and let me get this straight. After one very special message that I received last week, I was motivated to create this video for you, and I gathered 5 simple and valuable tips to help you improve your amigurumi. Hi everyone, if you're new here in the channel, I am Bianca from Crocheniacs, and if you want to learn how to crochet amigurumi from scratch, or if just like me, you love everything amigurumi related, then this is the right channel for you. You know how much I love to create these do's and don'ts videos, tips and tricks, and actually I opened a poll in my community page on Patreon, and my patrons said that they love this kind of video, so I am even more motivated and excited to keep creating this kind of content because I love doing it, and I am happy to know that you like it too. But last week I received a very interesting message that boosted my creativity a little bit more to make this video, and let me read the message for you. You have the neatest stitches I have ever seen. Well, my amigurumi do not look good and I feel discouraged. They are inconsistent, they have noticeable holes, and there is almost no stitch definition. Could you make a video showcasing some of your crochet projects? It would really help me to avoid committing these mistakes. So after this message, I put a lot of thought into it, as I said, and if I was supposed to gather all the tips and things that I thought about for this video, I think it will take like 1 or 2 hours. And you usually don't watch my videos when they're so long. So, as always, I will break these tips in a few videos here in the channel. And in this video, I'll talk about 5 tips that I consider paramount to keep your amigurumi better. So, tip number 1, the yarn you choose. This person that sent me the message, she also said, and I didn't read the whole message as I told you in the beginning, she said that she was using acrylic yarn. And well, talking about stitch definition, this is one of the main reasons why your stitch is not so well defined. It's totally fine to work with acrylic, but you have to know that the results that you get from it are completely different than the results that you get from an amigurumi crocheted with cotton yarn or an amigurumi crocheted with polyester fiber, the famous chenille, chunky, bulky yarns that we have available out there. And I always say it here in the channel, there is no like crochet police monitoring which kind of yarn you're doing. There is no right or wrong when it comes to crochet, but there are differences and your choices will dictate the final look of your amigurumi. If you choose to work with acrylic, it doesn't matter the reason, maybe it's cheaper, maybe you like the feeling of acrylic yarn, your amigurumi will have one aspect, one final look. But if you work with polyester, it will look different. And if you work with cotton, it will look different again. In this case, the girl wanted stitch definition. And in that case, I would go for 100% cotton yarn. Without a shadow of doubt. I love working with cotton yarn. I know that there are some drawbacks. I'm not saying that this is the most perfect one. But if you want stitch definition, go for a cotton yarn, or at least a combination of cotton with acrylic. There are a couple of brands out there that have this kind of combination and they are really good. I do like them. I don't have here with me right now, but these are good yarns too. But you can either choose a combination of cotton with acrylic or 100% cotton yarn to have a good stitch definition. I do like working with polyester. I know this is kind of a controversial topic. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I do like it. Depends on the polyester fiber, of course. But if you want stitch definition, maybe this is not the best one for you. Well, my tip number 2 is still about stitches, but something that I see people arguing a lot. What is the best one, like yarn over or yarn under? And in this video, I will not talk about the difference between these two because there is already a video here in the channel, like an entire video dedicated to this topic. In case you want to watch it later to decide which one is the best for you, the video will be linked in the description and also here somewhere. I think it's always here and I always forget, but I will leave the video here so you can watch it later. But one is not better than the other. And I have two examples here to show you. This cute amigurumi pig was crocheted with yarn over technique. This is a free pattern available here on my YouTube channel. This is part of the Amigurumi Academy series, and I teach everything, all the details. Like for people who have never even grabbed a crochet hook in their hands in their entire life, I teach everything. It's a free amigurumi course. And I crocheted with yarn over technique because it's usually a bit better for beginners to crochet with this kind of stitch. And you can see that the amigurumi is quite neat. The stitches are like on top of each other and there are no gaps between stitches with this one. And I have another example here. This is Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. I love Eeyore. I crocheted him recently. And just so you know, this is also part of the reward in my Patreon community. If you want to get monthly pattern rewards, I will leave the link for my Patreon community in the description as well. It's also a way that you can support my work, and there is lots of exclusive content there. But going back to the stitches, you see that I crocheted Eeyore with yarn under technique, using exactly the same yarn that was used to crochet my cute pig. You don't see visible differences between these two amigurumis. This one was yarn over, this one was yarn under. And both of them, the stitches are well defined, very neat and on top of each other. There are no gaps between stitches. And why am I saying this here? Because I have seen lots of people saying that in order to have a perfect amigurumi, you must use the yarn under technique. And I don't agree with that. I know lots of amazing designers who work with yarn over technique. Their amigurumi are beautiful, very, very good. And they are using the yarn over technique. As I said, there are differences, and I do crochet with yarn under. I'm a yarn under girl. I like it. And it's true that the yarn under technique makes your stitches smaller, tighter, and usually it's easier to avoid gaps when you're crocheting with yarn under than when you're crocheting with yarn over technique. This is a fact for sure, but it doesn't mean that if you crochet with yarn over, you will have gaps, because there are other things involved, like the yarn, the crochet hook that you choose, and of course, the experience that you have. I hope it makes sense. My tip number 3 is to talk about how to avoid gaps. And well, we talked about yarn, stitch, and of course, we have to talk about the crochet hook, because you know, I always say it here in the channel and lots of people always talk about it. When it comes to amigurumi, we usually use a smaller crochet hook size than the ones recommended in the yarn label. I have a good example here. This is Catania. This is Schockenmeier Catania. A very good yarn for amigurumi crocheters. And they recommend a crochet hook, let me see, 2.5 to 3.5 millimeter crochet hook size. And just so you know, I use 2 to 2.5 with that one. I would never go to a bigger than 2.5 crochet hook size, just so you know. Like they say 3.5 here, I would never use it because otherwise there would be lots of gaps between stitches. So of course it's important to pay attention to the yarn, crochet hook, stitch, and blah, blah, blah. But we have to be patient, especially when we are in our early stages, when we are learning how to do it. We have a tendency, whenever we get more experienced in something, we start to do it faster. It's completely normal. Let me try to give an example. Like driving. Driving is a good example. I remember when I learned how to drive, I was 18, because in Brazil, we are only allowed to drive when we are 18. And I was so scared. I was so afraid of driving. You have no idea. I thought I would never have a car or I would never drive because it was so hard for me. and my speed was ridiculous. I was driving at 20, 30 kilometers per hour, but it was like in the beginning. I didn't turn on the radio because I didn't want to get distracted. My windows were always closed because I didn't want to hear anyone outside. So I was there inside my car, completely concentrated in driving, in not hitting another car or another person or a dog crossing the street. But, well, I am not 18 anymore, unfortunately. And right now, when I'm driving, same things are like you're talking to someone and you have the music turned on, the windows are down, and well, you're driving sometimes a little bit faster than you should. Well, everyone has done that at least once in their lives. So now it's automatic. We don't have to think like, oh, this is the brake. This is not the brake. Do I do this? Or is my mirror well placed? We don't have to think about this because driving after a few years gets automatic. And whenever we learn something new and some things get out in this automatic phase, we have a tendency to do it faster and we don't pay that much attention anymore. And wow, why am I speaking that much about driving here? Well, it is super related to crochet. And I really hope this video does not turn out super big, but I love to teach and explain things. You know I'm a teacher and I love to teach. I love to explain. And whenever I explain things and someone tells me that they learned from me, I feel like, yay, I'm in the right place. I love it. I really do. But talking about crochet, if you're in your early stages, concentrate to every stitch that you're doing. Don't crochet like, oh, okay, I was supposed to have 24 stitches in this round, so I will crochet and that's it. Pay attention to it. Do it carefully. And if it's not good, don't be afraid of frogging and doing it again. There is a balance. Of course, I've said it in other videos here in the channel as well. I'm against people who frog the project all the time and they never finish because they want their first amigurumi to be perfect. And if this is your case, don't do it. I think it's better to finish one amigurumi, learn from it, and do it again, and you'll learn a lot after you finish every project. I have feedback from it. This is kind of a methodology thing. Again, the teacher inside me says that based on something. So we need this feeling of accomplishment when we are crocheting. And I see people simply like, okay, I want to finish, and they don't pay attention to the stitches. Nowadays, because I crochet for 10 years, I crochet amigurumi for 10 years, I usually don't pay attention to the stitches that much. Because regardless if I am tired or not, it doesn't change my crochet tension, my stitches. If I'm watching a TV series, or if I'm alone, or if I'm talking to someone and crocheting. But in the beginning, we need to pay attention to all these things a little bit more carefully. Sorry for speaking that much, but it was important. Number 4, stuffing. Stuffing is something that I always say people take for granted. It's so important. And usually people think that it's just like, I finished the project, take like a big bowl of stuffing like this and you randomly stuff the amigurumi. You cannot do that. It will not work. You have to stuff the amigurumi correctly, shape the amigurumi to get to the result that you want. Let me show you. With my Eeyore, for example. And let's pay attention. I simply threw my stuffing at the floor. I can organize it later. Let's observe every detail of this amigurumi. Well, of course the ears are not stuffed, because otherwise it will be like this. He would have his ears bloated. So it is not stuffed. His head, I had to stuff it correctly, because if I stuff too much, I would open the stitches and I would see stuffing and you create gaps. Of course, I don't want it empty, because if it's empty, well, it's ugly. But I don't know if you can see it in the video. Look at the arms. I also don't want the arms to be bloated, but I don't want them flat the same way that the ears are. So the amount of stuffing that I will put in the arms to have them stuffed, but at the same time not overstuffed, that the amigurumi is like that, is something that we have to pay attention. So every part of an amigurumi needs a different way, a different technique, a different amount of stuffing to be placed. And this is something important. Usually when people learn to crochet amigurumi, beginners, and there are so many things to pay attention. Again, same thing as driving. In the beginning, there are lots of things to pay attention at the same time, and then it becomes automatic. And when it comes to crochet, you have to master the magic ring. You have to learn the increases, decreases, which are difficult to avoid the gaps. So there are so many details to pay attention that we simply forget that to have a beautiful amigurumi, stuffing is like mandatory to learn. There are other videos here in the channel where I talk only about stuffing. I will again leave the link in the description so you can watch it later, but keep in mind that stuffing is a big part of having an amigurumi looking beautiful in the end. Well, if you're enjoying this video so far, remember to subscribe to my channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any tips, tricks, videos, tutorials that I bring here. I love creating this content and I do hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And if there are even more things that you want to learn from me, and I said I love teaching, you can consider subscribing to my Patreon community because people there vote on the videos for the channel, the new patterns that I create, and I do create lots of exclusive content for this amazing community that, by the way, I love so much. Well, and last but not least, my tip number 5 is practice. And this message that I read in the beginning of this video, the person said that she's crocheting for a couple of weeks. And guys, I've been crocheting for 10 years, as I said. My first amigurumi was not beautiful at all. It was a bunny. I remember that it was a free pattern because I was still learning how to do it. And the bunny was so ugly. I mean, the facial embroidery was ugly. I crocheted a beanie and it was ridiculous. The ears of the bunny, one is smaller and one is bigger. And then I realized that one ear I crocheted correctly and the other I crocheted the inverted side of the magic ring. So I struggled a lot to do it and I didn't know how to differentiate. I didn't know what I was doing wrong back then. The amigurumi is ugly, but I learned a lot from it and I never stopped. And I also know other crafts and it helps. It's like playing an instrument, you know? For example, my husband, he knows how to play lots of instruments, but his best one is the guitar and he's very good playing the guitar. And after that, he tried playing the piano and he's good in the piano, but he has this background in music. And I know how to play the drums. Probably I forgot because there is like a few years that I don't play the drums anymore, but I used to. But it's the only instrument that I know, to be honest. I never tried another one, but I love the drums. And I took drum classes for a few years and he didn't take drum classes, but even though he was a better drummer than I was, because he has this whole background in music, he understands so much about music, and I don't, I struggle with it. So if you have a background in crafts, in knitting and embroidery and all the kinds of crafts that are similar to it, it will be easier for you with crochet. And this is exactly what happened to me. I tried crochet when I was younger, but I had lots of experience with embroidery and I know knitting as well. So when I try to transfer this knowledge to crochet, it's a bit easier for me. And as I said, I've been crocheting for 10 years and I improved a lot. I improved my stitches, my knowledge, the technique, and I am still learning for sure. I'm always watching other friends' videos, other friends' tutorials here. I have some crocheter designer friends who do an amazing work and I feel like I learned so much from them. Again, it might be the teacher inside me saying it, but I believe that in life we are constantly learning everything. I think I will never get to a point, and I hope to never get to a point where I'll come here, like press play and record a video and say something like, I crochet for 30 years, I know everything and there is nothing else for me to learn. No way, it's impossible. There will always be something for me to learn. So if you're crocheting for like 1-2 weeks or a few months, please don't be discouraged. Everyone is learning. And if you hear something different, from someone, don't trust this person because this is not true. We are constantly learning something in our lives. Whew. Well, I talked so much. Oh my God. I am sorry for that. This was not in my plans. I really wanted this video to be a bit shorter, but I got excited teaching, talking about my experience, sharing with you from the bottom of my heart my most honest thoughts about improving an amigurumi and improving your skills in crochet or whatever. I hope everything that I said makes sense. And if you have anything to add to it, any tips for beginners or anything else that you'd like me to come here and talk about, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. You know how much I love reading your comments, and I answer to each and every one of them because, well, for me, there's nothing better than waking up and looking at my YouTube messages and see something beautiful that you shared. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll leave you this video here because I believe this might be really helpful for you.